USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's 45-14 win over Washington State in Pullman. Now, Shotgun, when a head coach gets fired on a Monday in Week 3, I don't think anyone knows what to expect from the team on Saturday come game time, but I don't think any of us expected true freshman quarterback Jaxson Dart to lead the Trojans to victory.
I mean, how could you expect to know anything from this team coming in? I mean, they're playing tips up on the way here. You know, you got your starting quarterback goes down early in the game. Unfortunately, USC has a little experience with that. A true freshman comes in. It's raining. You know, you got wet balls. What is going to happen? USC falls behind 14-0. They get a big play right before half. Game-changing play. They go for it on 4th and 9 from the 38-yard line. Dante Williams said afterwards he was thinking about kicking the field goal. They were going to line up with the field goal. They run the clock down a little bit. And Drake London goes, are we going to kick a field goal? What? Are you sure about this? And he said, put him back out there. Put the offense. Let's go make a play. And that's what they did. Jaxson Dart hits a strike over the middle to Garrett Bryant, who had gotten behind the defense. Something we haven't seen too much from USC, being able to get behind the defense and with that speed that he has. Big play, gave him momentum going into halftime. And I talked to Vic Soto. He said Dante Williams really got the team jacked up at halftime with his speech that he gave. And he says when Dante says it's time to turn up, it's time to turn up. And the players came out with their hair on fire in the third quarter. It looked completely different than the third quarters we've seen in the past. Yeah. Now, there were some adjustments, and that'll be part of it. But there were touchdowns. There were sacks for the first time this season. USC, I think it was 28 straight points they scored, 35 straight points. Going in that quarter, the offense was playing well, the defense was playing well. Special teams makes a big play to open the second half. So all three facets they were playing really well, and it all started with that momentum play, but then carrying that momentum through the halftime break. And they came out and played tremendous in the second half. 45 straight points unanswered for USC to take a 45-14 win.
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, the offense played really well today. I think people are wondering, were there adjustments made because Dante Williams took over, or is this something that Jaxson Dart can provide to this offense?
Well, let's not count Keaton Slovis out yet. Now, he got injured. I don't think they're going to immediately throw Jaxson Dart in there. I think they're going to see where Keaton Slovis' health is at. I did get to catch up with him a little bit after the game, and he had a neck injury. I talked with some of the people. They saw him going upstairs in the athletic facility here, which means he was going to an X-ray room. So everything came back negative as far as that. So they're going to get some more tests when he goes back to USC to check him out. But he could barely move his neck. When he was warming up, he was still struggling to kind of move left or right. And, if you can't keep your head on a swivel, as they always say, then you can't be out there on the field. So that's part of the reason why Jaxson Dart had to go in. And Jaxson Dart comes in and balls. And Jaxson Dart did what we have seen from him through fall camp, through spring camp. He's going to be a gunslinger. And that's exactly how Graham Harrell described him to me. He said, hey, he's a gunslinger. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's going to make a lot of big plays, and that's what he did today. He made a couple mistakes, a couple interceptions, can't throw over the middle into triple coverage. Kind of an arm punt on a third and long situation, which set up a big play for the defense. But you can't be throwing across your body downfield trying to wing it 40 yards. Those are mistakes he's going to have to get better at to eventually become the starting quarterback at USC, whether it's this year, next year, on down the line. But we did see the elusiveness in the backfield. We saw the special ability that he does have, the playmaking ability where he can keep plays alive, create a little bit, but also can fling the ball down the field. Gave his receivers a chance a lot of times. Yeah. And that's something he played with a ton of confidence. And one of the interesting things I thought Brett Nealon said after the game is that I asked him about when he came off the field after those turnovers, what did he look like? How did he react to it? And he said, he kind of just shrugged it off his shoulders, said, hey, that's my fault. I took responsibility for it. My bad. Let's go out there and make a play next time. That's something you don't always see from a true freshman quarterback when they get thrown into a mix. Washington State had a similar situation, had to bring in a backup. Did not look anywhere close to what Jaxson Dart did. 391 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game.
Now, Shotgun, I think social media and USC fans have crowned Jaxson Dart as USC's new starter, but Dante Williams pumped the brakes on that. He said, we'll see how Keaton Slovis, if he can practice this week, and we'll take it from there. And Dante Williams is the type of coach that says no starting spot is safe for anyone. That's what he said with the cornerbacks all fall camp. But do you think there's a quarterback controversy going forward?
I don't think so yet. You got to see Keaton Slovis get back in. I think the offense, and one of the reasons the offense struggled early, the defense struggled early, they were pressing too much. They were trying to do too much. Graham Harrell said that the guys were just trying to be perfect. That's why he felt like they would make a mistake and just couldn't get back on track with drives. They had some turnovers, had some penalties that kind of set them back. And that was the same thing on defense. I asked what were those big halftime adjustments you guys made because you shut them down in the second half? What'd you do differently? Nothing really. I'm sure they made some slight adjustments, but they're like, we stuck to our assignment better. So instead of trying to make a big play and trying to make a game-changing play, just do your job. Sometimes it's so simple as that. Just do what your responsibility is. Don't try to do what someone else's is at the same time. And I think that was the biggest thing. That big touchdown before the halftime kind of settled everyone down. They got fired up at halftime and came out and proved what they can do, prove that they have, more talented players than Washington State had.
Now, a topic of conversation coming into this game about USC's defense was that they hadn't recorded a sack yet. Well, Shotgun, they have 3 sacks in this game. I think they were making up for the first 2 games.
Yeah, they're getting some pressure on the quarterback, and that was a big thing. And the sacks was interesting because there's not a lot of defensive linemen on the field. They played a lot of quarters coverage, 7 DBs on the field to match up with Washington State. So you had the linebacker, Kanai Mauga gets the first sack, Drake Jackson with a huge sack for the defensive line, and then Jalen Smith, the nickelback, the freshman, gets his first career sack, coming off the edge. USC brought a lot of different blitzes. They started disguising their coverage a little bit more because that was something Jaden Delore did a really good job early in the game, was identifying where the blitzes were coming from, and they would attack the opposite side. But USC brought a lot of different blitzes, a lot of different pressures from different looks because they only had 3 down linemen on the field. But then it takes just a special player to just beat somebody every once in a while. And that's what Drake Jackson did. He went right around the left tackle in the end zone. The backup quarterback's in. He doesn't feel the pressure coming from behind. Strip sack, big turning point for the second half in that third quarter. USC was piling it on, but it was 21-14 at that point. If Washington State drives down and scores, we got a tie game. Instead, it turns into a 14-point game, and USC adds on and they add on from there. But a big strip sack in the end zone. Tulitu Pelotu falls on it for the touchdown. So, it's the big separator when you can get that defensive score. But it was the pressure. They were getting pressure on the quarterbacks and forcing them quick to make those quick decisions. I talked to Vic Soto, and I asked him, is this a little bit of, the monkey off the shoulders a little bit there for you? And he said, yeah, but we've been getting that pressure, and we feel like we've been getting it consistently. We just haven't been able to get the numbers as far as the sacks. But it did definitely feel real bit good for them to get that strip sack in the end zone. Huge play there from Drake Jackson. A one-on-one type of play. Sometimes you need your special players to do that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dante Williams started his presser saying that they still have corrections to make. He, as a head coach, have corrections to make. What are you expecting from this team going forward?
If they can build on that second half, then we might see the full potential of this team. That's one of the things, we talked to the players, and you had a great article about the accountability that needed to be in this program. If they fix those things, because there were still some minor issues, 10 guys on the field for a punt, didn't know if the punt returner was going to be out there, had to call a timeout, burn a timeout. Small things like that. There were some small details they still have to clean up. But if they can, we saw what this team is capable of in that second half, how they can just wreck a team in one quarter. And that's exactly what happened in this. The third quarter, they just destroyed Washington State. They destroyed their morale. The fans didn't come back. They started leaving for the exits. It's similar to USC last week. That's what this team can do. They're capable of because they have special players. You can throw the ball up to Drake London. He goes up and gets it. He goes up and gets it over 2 defenders, gets in the end zone. So, this team, if they let their playmakers make plays and don't get in their own way, they can be a special unit still, and that's what we're hoping to see from them because we always want to see guys play to their full potential.
Yeah, and in that sense, Shotgun, I thought it was interesting. I felt like the team was just generally more happier. They seemed more together, and that's not a shot at anyone, but they just seemed like they were really rooting for each other. And you were on the sideline for this game. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think you see Jaxson Dart going up and down the sideline to the defensive players, with the offensive players. After Drake Jackson's play, everyone's giving him so much love, so much love to Tulitu Pelotu for getting it. When Caleb Bullock got his interception, he could barely get back into the box, and Gavin Morris was over there trying to usher everyone back in because it was in the middle of the first play, and he was still just getting so much love from his teammates and stuff. That's what you want to see from a team. You want to see them fighting for each other. And I feel like all the news that happened this week, had an opportunity to drive this team one or two ways. Yeah. Does it drive them to bring them together, or does it drive them apart? And it seemed like it brought them together, at least for this week. We'll see where they go from here and see how they continue to make adjustments and fix some of the mistakes that they had. But I felt like it was a weight off their shoulder, from hearing the booing, from hearing about Clay Helton's job status over and over and over. Maybe that's a little bit of a weight off their shoulders. They came out and played, after they were super tense. It seemed like they were trying to do too much early to prove that what they could do for Dante and for the team and for the staff. Once they started to loosen up and let things go, they went out there and balled out in the second half.
Now, when it comes to injuries, just a general note going forward, I think that Dante Williams is a little less forthcoming than Clay Helton when it comes to updating the status of players. He generally says, oh, they'll be fine, they'll play this week, but we didn't really see that with Nick Figueroa. So just a note going forward. But Shotgun, there's a lot of key injuries that we're definitely going to have to watch going forward in practice this week.
I mean, it starts with the quarterback position with Keaton Slovis, but also Jaxson Dart. He got banged up with his knee, and he was flexing it a lot. But in the first half, he came back out with a big, bulky kind of sleeve. It wasn't really a true brace, but a big sleeve there. So keep an eye on that. He was still limping a little bit when he went to the locker room after the game. Drake London, probably a concussion. He came back out in sunglasses after coming off the field really woozy on his second touchdown. He left a little bit earlier than the rest of the team in the locker room as well. Nick Figueroa, like you mentioned, did not play. Solomon Tulialapupu, we didn't see him play it either. And he was actually holding up screens as USC was blocking the press box from looking down and picking up their signs, which was kind of an interesting thing there. But he was on the trip as well, which tells you that usually that means they're pretty close to being available, and they probably tested him out and he wasn't able to go. But some key players there with Nick Figueroa, and that was one of the things when they didn't get any pressure in the first half. We were like, I wonder if Nick Figueroa was out there, how much this would be different. So we'll have to keep an eye, but everyone's going to be looking at that quarterback position going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here in Pullman?
Honestly, the game was like the weather. USC was like the weather. It was cold and dreary and, drizzling the whole time. It wasn't terrible, but it was drizzling the whole time. That was kind of USC in the first half. They weren't terrible, but they weren't very good. And then the sun came out at the beginning of the second half, and USC's, talent came out in the second half too, and they played much better in that third quarter. It'll be interesting to see where this team goes from here. If they can build on this, there's a chance they can do something special. They have a lot of talent. They got to clean up some things starting on the offensive line. They played much better in the second half. Did not run the ball well at all day, but they protected a little bit better in the second half. They've got to fix some things. They made some adjustments there. Brett Nealon said that they were doing a lot of twists and stunts up front, so they made some adjustments to change the way they were kind of blocking up front to protect that. But they've got to do a better job quicker. Make those adjustments a little bit quicker. And the defense, terrific effort, 4 turnovers in this game, defense and special teams. But, you can't always rely on that. So they got to be able to kind of snuff out some of those early long drives that Washington State was able to go on. And we'll see where they go from them, how they make those adjustments, what players, build on what they did today, because a lot of guys got a great opportunity. I want to point out Jaden Williams, I thought, was really good even before he had an interception that kept Washington State out of the end zone at the very end. He was out there for a lot of plays, was rarely targeted because he was on point with everything. And Xavier Alford came in at the safety spot and actually tied for the team lead in tackles, even though he played, I think, 3 drives on defense. He's hitting everybody and actually hurt his shoulder at the very end, but he told me afterwards that he was okay. So, just it's good to see those backups get in there and get an opportunity and make the most of it. And that's why you need to blow some teams out every once in a while. So we'll see how USC builds on this. Another chance next week against a North opponent, Oregon State, and we'll see. They're playing at home. It'll be interesting to see what the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Is that place rocking?
Yeah.
Could be rocking.
Yeah, we'll see. And given your analogy, Shotgun, and it's drizzling right now, I don't know what that means for our incident analysis performance. How do you think?
I think it's time to wrap it up then.
Okay. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up from Pullman, Washington. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.